Hey everybody, Charles McFall here, EMS Underground, and I am here to talk about the Region 3 meeting that happened today. I went to observe and to possibly ask questions, which I did not do, and to report on it. So, here is what has happened today. There was a standard EMS Region 3 council meeting, and there's some new positions announced. I'm trying to find my notes here. Sorry I didn't have that pulled up ahead of time. But there's some stuff going on. So a little bit of updates in the news there. There's a number of regions that are getting their own EMS training officers, Region 3 being one of those. So there's going to be new training personnel and software for regional training. That's about it. That was the announcement. So I don't know the full details of how that's going to work, what the software will look like, but they will roll that out as needed or as they get developed. The EMS subcommittee for trauma has gotten a grant. I think it was $40-something thousand. So they're trying to figure out, and they had some money left over from 2018. The trauma division did. So they're trying to figure out how to spend it down. They've got a couple different options. Somebody trying to do a study on trauma here in Georgia. But the baseline option would be to stop the bleed. Now, the report they did give, to do more stop the bleed, but the report they did give, Gwinnett County school system has pretty much finished all the stop the bleed training across the board for their teachers, for their personnel, for their drivers, staff, all that jazz, which is a huge school system to get that done. And each school has 12 kits in it, stop the bleed kits, as does every bus in that system. So that was cool. That was some good updates. Benny Atkins of National EMS failed the show. He was supposed to give a report. Don't know what happened. So I don't know what the report would have been and where that goes because he wasn't there. Then the report from the All Hazard Committee. This is what would surprise me. I am reporting, right? I have no desire to play in the politics. I have no desire to sit at that table that the committee sat at. I would like to ask the questions and know what's going on. And I'm learning the process. I'm actually going to find out, I'm just going to try the waters next time. And when they say, are there any other questions, I'm going to raise my hand and ask what seems to be the blatantly dumb questions. Because here's one. The All Hazard Committee had no report because they had not met in a few months. And literally the man there representing who is a council member who's sitting at the table, because some of the reports came from members in the audience who are on the quality control board or the trauma board or those kind of things. They weren't council members at the table, right? This guy's at the table, and he had nothing to report because he said they hadn't met in a few months, and he didn't know if they'd been disbanded, if they just weren't meeting. He's not sure what to go on. And nobody stopped to handle that. Nobody went, wait a minute. I mean, the head of the meeting said something about, we've got to, essentially, he said, we need to meet on it because there's supposed to be a process. I don't know what All Hazards subcommittee is supposed to be, but it sounded like it's supposed to be a committee that's identifying problems either in the communities they serve or in the EMS system, hospital systems, but they weren't meeting, and he literally did not know if they were disbanded or what was going on. Yet he had to be there for a report. And nobody questions this. Why does nobody question this? Why does nobody jump in and go, hey, we got to fix this? What's going on? I don't know. So then we got to the South Fulton County update. So in the last meeting they had, well, a couple of meetings ago, before South Fulton took over, right? This was their pitch to take over. They got approved. Or before Grady took over South Fulton, they got approved to take the contract. The promise was that before they transitioned in July 2018, the promise was average response time of 9 minutes. They're going to use new ambulances 2017 or older, or newer rather, 2017 or newer ambulances for South Fulton County. And that they are not going to utilize other service providers. That was the promise. And that was what was read essentially from the notes before they took over in July. So here's the update. 4 months from July to October 31st. Steve Moyer says it's going well. says the total calls in those 4 months was 9,950 calls, with 74% of those being emergent calls. Let's break that down. 9950, right? 9950 divided by 4 months is 2,487 calls roughly a month. Let's say on average 30 days. 82 calls a day. That's a pretty decent call volume. It's a pretty decent call volume. 74% were being emergent. However, his reported average response time was 11 minutes. Actually, 11 point time is almost 11 and a half minutes. Nobody challenged that. Nobody challenged that. Nobody asked why. There was one question I'll get to in a minute about how the numbers were parsed. But nobody passed. I talked to Terrence of AMR, regional director, afterwards, and he said the AMR left that county. They got shoved out, right? They left that county, and their response time was under 12 minutes on average. Grady's response time is under 12 minutes, but over 11 on average. And he was proud. Steve Morris was proud to say that some response times were 10 minutes. It's not the 9 minutes that you promised. And he went on to say, honestly, to me, fluff of that, oh yeah, we're working this long term, we're going to put a community paramedic, we're doing community programs where it's going to take time to get to 9 minutes. But as a council, you didn't give AMR time to get to 9 minutes, did you? You didn't talk to them about improvements or anything like that. It's just not fair play, in my opinion. I don't understand what is going on with the politics here. But I expected, okay, somebody's going to say, your promise was 9 minutes. What are you actively doing? What can you show us that you're doing that says you're going to get down to 9 minutes? That's a huge gap in response time. If it's in cooking time, right, making a cake, not a big deal. But when we're stressing, we as a general society in Georgia are stressing response times and patient contact and patient outcomes. We're not questioning 2 to 2.5 minutes. Differentiation. Hold your breath for that. Go for it. I'll wait. You're not going to get there, and you're probably not going to hold your breath anyway. So don't hold your breath for anything to happen out of the Region 3 Council right now. It's just slow going. I didn't feel like there was any duplicity. I didn't feel like there was any fat cat politics yet, but this is my first meeting. But I did think, hey, can we at least get a legit, easy to understand idea of what you're going to do to get from 11.5 to 9? Because that's, holy crap, man. So a question that was asked, because the committee gets to ask or challenge or clarify anything first. And a member of the committee, and it's really hard to hear in that room. And they didn't always, a lot of committee members know each other, so they didn't introduce themselves as their full name or anything. So I'm unfamiliar with all the players. But a committee member did ask, well, this data, this, what did I say? This 74%, the response time data. Is that all calls or just emergent calls? That response time is just emergent calls. Grady is not factoring what they call alpha calls. The state system, I'm assuming it's a standard regulation system that alpha calls are the BS calls, right? They're the, I stubbed my toe, there's no life threats, just can somebody come look at me, I feel sick. These are called alpha calls. And those times, and it's dispatched theoretically, I'm not in the system, I didn't get to go observe how they do it. But theoretically, the dispatch dispatches it to a lower priority call. I know in DeKalb with AMR, they have trucks that are BLS trucks that essentially will cover these alpha calls. So they have a system at least there in place, and I'm assuming South Fulton's going to have something similar, that they have procedures to identify this goes to the paramedic truck, this goes to the BLS truck, who can call in paramedics if needed. So no, he just kind of cut the data out. Oh, no. Don't look at my alpha calls. We have an 11.5 minute response time on the emergent calls, with 69% of those being transported. Nobody challenge this. I don't understand why nobody challenged this on the council. Because again, being the new guy, being the first time I've set foot in one of these meetings, I'm trying to learn the process, trying to understand how this works. Am I out of order if I just stand up and ask a question? Can I ask a question or bring these points up when they say, are there any questions? No, one person in the audience asked a question. That was at the end. We'll get to that as we go through. So I'm not understanding personally how this works, how it can work or should work. So I didn't ask a question, but I wanted to go, wait, can you just take the data you want to tell us about and tell us? Is that how reports work in the council? So I'm asking you here now on EMS Underground, is that how the Region 3 Council works? Is you can just nitpick your data, cherry pick your data? Oh, no, we're going to look at the emergency calls, and that's our response time, because the non-emergency response times are going to make that response time so much bigger. So much bigger. Then to the point of mutual aid, I'm waiting because I know for a fact, because they said not utilizing other service providers was the phrasing that the director of the council meeting used from the notes, not utilizing other service providers. I know. Well, today is Thursday, Rachel, and I'm doing a special report on the Region 3 Council. Tomorrow, we're doing another show. Tune in tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. We'll be talking to Darren. I lost Darren's last name. Darren Dale. And he's going to talk about his summer doing the event medic stuff. And he just went to an EMS conference. Now, today is a special Region 3 Council meeting. And Region 3 covers DeKalb, Fulton, South Fulton, us here in Newton County. It covers a huge section of Atlanta and the surrounding areas. So I think this stuff is important to talk about. But specifically, it says not utilizing other service providers. AmeriPro has a truck 24/7 in your county running 911. That's exactly what it's there for. I believe there's 2 to 3 other services that have trucks in South Fulton to run the 911 overflow or the unable. But nobody. I said, okay, I'm waiting for a council member to challenge this. What about the not utilizing other service providers? Somebody did ask, how is mutual aid working? And Steve Moyer's official response was, well, we mutual aid ourselves. Within the Grady system, we take other Grady trucks and we mutual aid ourselves. And again, it's hard to say here. He said a little something else I couldn't tell. Somebody across the table said something else, but essentially the whole gist is we're not using any other mutual aid. No, Patrick, it is that big of an issue to me when you're supposed to be reporting your progress. And when you reported it, he didn't clarify. Somebody had to clarify for him or ask him to clarify, is this not emergent or emergent? Is this all of it? Because it's going to throw your response times off. I think honesty dictates that you're going to say, in my report, here's our response times for non-emergent. Here's our response times for emergent. Here's our overall average. And our contract reads, our agreement was 9 minutes for emergent calls. He hit it. Man, Frank, I would love to come up to Jersey at some point and see how the system operates and sit in one of your region council meetings and ride your truck and see the systems. That'd be a road trip. That'd be a good road trip to do. I'd love to do that at some point. And maybe you can get your service to fly me up there and I'll do some shows from your service and we'll talk about what you guys do and give you some promotion. So no, but overall, Patrick, yeah, you are going to. But the question is, do you get to just parse times? Because when AMR was being nitpicked and picked apart when they were there, they had all their times thrown out on the table. Everything but Fulton, the new company, comes in and they didn't share. That's my problem. I wanna see the truth. I want you to come to the table with your guns loaded and say, this is this is that, and here's what we're doing to get to our promises. Patrick's, yeah, okay, so you're saying that. Margaret says they don't want to include non-emergent because it'll be a larger, yeah, I know, I get that. My ire is nobody's calling them out on that. Going, wait, they did say, oh, is this different? Is this not, somebody did call them out and say, is this emergent or non-emergent? Oh, it's just emergent. And then nothing else there. Then no, where are the other numbers? And 11 point whatever minutes, because they talked fast and I was typing. Next time I'm going to take a notepad so I can write faster than I can type. About 11 point something minutes, is still not good, right? It's not their 9-minute thing. Uh, yeah, I don't know, Frank. And Frank asked if the same service mutual aids themselves, is it still considered mutual aid? I don't know, possibly. But my point was nobody called out, and I didn't know if I could or not. But AmeriPro literally staffs a truck in South Fulton County just for 911 calls 24/7. 24/7. 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. are the two shifts. And you have crews dedicated to only running 911. That's how many calls that truck gets out of the 911 system. Is that not mutual aid? Is that, and the phrasing is not mutual aid. The phrasing is, where'd it go? Not utilizing other service providers. That was the phrasing that was verbalized. I don't have the contract in front of me. I don't have the written agreement. So all I can go on is what I'm picking up on the meeting today. But he says that it's been positive response from the leaders in South Fulton County. Is fully operational. Their whole system's fully operational at this point. So, Larry, you're saying not currently. So you don't currently. Larry Richardson, everybody, is COO of AmeriPro. And so that has changed. You're not currently staffed. That was in July. Okay, that does clarify some things. Thank you for that. I appreciate the clarification. So that does change the picture a little bit. But so the council did leave South Fulton County and Grady with the challenge. They phrased it as this is a challenge. They've been challenged to get the response times down by the next meeting, is where that was left. Okay, so that's the rest of that. So then we get to the AMR, DeKalb County, Dunwoody update, right? And again, Larry, thank you for piping in, because these are questions I have to ask, and I don't have any other ways to get answers. So that was very much appreciated. So the DeKalb Dunwoody update. So a subcommittee was formed, and Chief Elliott, who is, my understanding was Billy Elliott was a police chief, and I'll check that link out later, Grantham. Thank you. Chief Elliott was he's, for what I can tell, he's the leader of the ad hoc committee that was made after the last meeting that CBS reported on. By the way, CBS didn't bother to show up for this meeting, right? They didn't want to report on the actual resolution of the problem. They were only there to hype up the problem that was in the cab and what the complaints were and those kind of things. But Chief Elliott was quoted many times by CBS as his people had to wait for transport, for calls that are not medical calls. When you have, somebody who's drunk, somebody who's a psych patient that is causing issues, those are law enforcement calls, depending on your jurisdiction, but my understanding is it's just law enforcement calls. So he was the leader of this ad hoc committee. There was of course, the DeKalb Fire Chief Fuller was on that committee. There was a number of other people on that committee. Nobody from AMR was on that committee. However, what the committee reports is they have met several times. They discovered a concerted effort by all parties involved to serve the citizens of the county and the remaining cities inside equally. They were all addressing the issues, and they're all working towards a common goal. That's what the committee has found. Oh, yeah, Nathan, he did, and we'll talk about that here in a second. I got a quote from him. The rep you're referring to is Terry Knoll, City Council Post 4. I have his card right here, so I remember to get the information right. I did get a quote from him today on this. So, man, a lot of people from DeKalb turned out. We had the CEO of DeKalb was there. The mayor of Dunwoody was there. The council, all the council members for Dunwoody, I guess it is. City council. So, yeah, all the council members for Dunwoody were there. A lot of fire chiefs for DeKalb were there. A lot of representation on this issue was there. So, Chief Elliott says the committee found that basically that I'll get to an issue I had in a second, but basically everybody involved is working towards the same goal, and they've come up with what is called a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, that they have. Absolutely, Frank. Email me. My email is right there on the screen. Email me directly, and we'll set up. We can do a Skype call. We can do something like that, and we'll that would be an awesome show to talk about the state differences and how the systems work. But they came up with a memorandum that Chief Fuller spoke on after Chief Elliott spoke. But the report is, for the first time, and this is said by many people today officially, for the first time in a long time, everybody's coming together. They've identified the problems, and they've already started rolling out solutions. Some are longer term, some are short term. I am filing a Freedom of Information Act, a vital records request, to get that memorandum. I asked E.J. Daly, who is the director of Region 3, today, how do I get that memorandum? Because they said there's 17 points listed out of these are the problems and the solutions that we're looking at or have done already. And everybody's agreed to it, right? The mayor of Dunwoody, the CEO, the AMR, DeKalb Fire, whoever, Dunwoody Fire, all the different people involved. It's not a legal document, from what I understand, per se, but it is a written document that they don't have a signed version, but they committed to getting a signed version to the Region 3 office soon, I guess. I didn't hear a time frame on that. So it's a... here's what we all agree that we understand is going to happen. So I'm filing a request. I asked, how do I get a copy of that? EJ said I had to file an official request just so they could track how it's used. When I get that, I'll do another special report on it and talk about it. So they are doing a request for bid because AMR's contract is up at the end of this year. And I got a quote from Terrence of AMR, who I said, do you believe that AMR is going to be moving forward with DeKalb County as a whole? And I'm going to talk about some of the solutions that happened already. But I asked him at the end of it, do you think it's going to be moving forward as a whole? And they are very confident and hopeful. They're very happy they've been a part of the solution. AMR is very happy that they've been able to help guide the shape of the system of how this goes so that it works well for the community. And that when the request for bid goes out, they will be bidding. And then it's depends on DeKalb County and everything else. But in the meantime, they're doing everything. AMR is doing everything they can to fix these whatever points in the 17 points that they can fix and address. They're on the memorandum. Terrence is of AMR, so he'll be one of the signatories, people who sign it. So, but one of the biggest things is above the north end of the county, right? That section of 285, where Dunwoody is, Brookhaven, a few other cities. And what they've done right now is city of Dunwoody itself has now 3 AMR static trucks in their fire stations. It is station 12, station 18, and station 21. That these 3 AMR trucks will sit 24/7. Shift change will be there. That's what the static means. That truck belongs to that station. Now, it was made clear they're not just servicing the city of Dunwoody. Those 3 trucks service the same area that the fire stations service. So it goes out into Brookhaven. It goes out into the other parts of the county that are serviced in those zones. There's, according to the agreement, there's a 4th truck that basically is a day truck that floats in that area. That I don't know where the shift change is on that one. They weren't that specific on it. I'm getting back to my notes here. So there have been temporary measures put in place. That's one of the temporary measures they're putting in place. Another temporary measure that's been put in place is in the south part of the county that has nothing to do with Dunwoody. In this research, DeKalb identified there were some issues there as well. So in order to help the issues, they have 2 fire-based ambulances that are down there that will run calls, that can run calls, and definitely can transport. So AMR is working with them on that. They've also got 10 rapid response vehicles that are, as Chief Fuller put it, they're out. They're not in the system out. They're out getting outfitted. So they've taken the vehicles, shipped them off to wherever it has to go to get outfitted. that will help take on the alpha calls, right? It'll be stopped by an EMTs at first, possibly paramedics later. And it didn't sound like they had the ability to transport, but they absolutely have that ability. They're called rapid response, and they'll be stationed in the troubling areas of the county, presumably. And I actually talked to Terrence afterwards about that, and he said that's one of the mutual meeting grounds that AMR and DeKalb had was, hey, there are areas in the county that need more help than others because of distance, of space. One of the problems with the Northern Corridor is that 285 cuts it in pieces, right? Where Dunwoody, Brookhaven, all that is, 285 intersects it. So there's times when you get on the other side of 285, it's very difficult to get back because of traffic, right? That's part of Dunwoody's complaint and response times. So presumably these rapid response vehicles will be shifting, but we don't have details on that yet. So they recommend 2 additional units up north of 285 with shift changes in that area. Now these are the tip measures already talked about, right? The Dunwoody trucks, and then they got the 2 trucks in the south. But they want to put 2 trucks even further north of 285 in DeKalb County. That would be static. They would do shift changes there because right now, well, things are changing. So when I say right now, I'm going to say the general understanding of how things work currently is that AMR shift changes is at Stone Mountain. My understanding is that's how the contract reads, right? And I believe it was a bad contract when they got into it. On the record, last meeting or 2 meetings ago, Chief Fuller went on the record and said it was a bad contract, that we have to fix the contract and also to help fix the problems that our areas need servicing. So that new contract's coming up. But so temporarily they're doing it. But they want the new contract to read that there'll be static trucks, 2 units up north of 285. They have already fixed issues with dispatch discrepancies. They have to address mutual aid, and another meeting is needed. There's another meeting that's been recommended. I'm going to have an issue with some of the politics on that in a second. But they're working towards a permanent solution, which will go into the RFP, right, the request for bid. And their current recommendation, they're tabling. The council said, okay, we're going to table the recommendation to separate the zone, which is what Terry Nall and Dunwoody wanted at the last meeting. They requested that they get their own EMS zone, either within DeKalb County or a federally dictated zone, or, I'm just reporting what I'm hearing, right? I'm not in all the details. So please jump in the chat room and talk about how the zone will work a little bit differently. But I'm going to give you the quote by Terry here in a little bit. But that's what they wanted. Dunwoody wanted its own EMS service, essentially. Maybe not their own personal one. I'll talk about his quote when I get there. But they wanted it to be serviced to where, and part of the quote that Terry says to me is unless you're transporting to a hospital, you stay here. That's what they want. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But the fact that you didn't want to work with the current system and the people involved in the system, you just wanted to take it away. So the official recommendation by the council, Region 3 Council, was to table that. They're going to table the issue to separate the zone since all agencies are working together towards a common goal to fix these issues. That is the current official stance by Region 3. They're going to accept the report from the DeKalb, which was everybody was a little confused on that. Even it didn't go the way anybody expected it to go, apparently. So they did what they had to do. But they accepted the report, which was essentially everybody's working together. They've got the memorandum of understanding from all the people involved saying these are the 17 points. And again, I'm trying to get that document in my hands. And that they're all working towards fixing it. So that was that. Then Chief Fuller stood up, talked about the extra unit. So he did say some communications are already improved, and there was an issue with relaying information from CAD to CAD, computer-aided dispatch, right? CAD to CAD. either with mutual aid systems or within their own systems, that they have already resolved. He said specifically that they've resolved those communication issues. I already talked about the 2 additional fire operated ambulances in the south end of the county. Brookhaven, the city of Brookhaven apparently bought an old Quick Trip location, right, which is a nice big store with a lot of parking, places to put your ambulances, quite possibly a refueling station for ambulances if you licensed it right and managed that chemical correctly. But they've offered it up as a substation for EMS provider and fire inside of, in the Brookhaven area. So apparently that's going to be something moving forward the AMR is going to take use of, is the office space and the ability to shift change there. So now you got a place to shift change centrally up north end of the county. Now, here's part of my problem. AMR was never directly named in this meeting. And I don't know why that was. It was always the service provider. It was never... Grady was named specifically. Like, Grady is in South Fulton. What's going on with Grady in South Fulton? But AMR was maybe it's a legal thing because they're technically subcontracted by the DeKalb Fire. I don't know why it was, but personally I was like, why can't you say AMR? AMR, American Medical Response. But I don't know what that was. Fire units now in DeKalb County, all firefighters are trained to EMT level minimum, is what Chief Fuller says. I know that's the case, but that's what he led with. And he said fire units will start. They have a protocol in place. Don't know what that is, what the triggers are. Because he said protocols and triggers. But essentially, fire trucks will respond to the alpha low-level calls now as well. And that's a good thing for now. I think those rapid response vehicles will probably replace fire trucks responding, because it's a lot of money and energy and manpower and time to run an engine to calls. It is, but that's part of the thing. I'm also getting some other information from a source, but the rest of the county apparently still suffers. This person works 2 calls in Dunwoody. Well, if a cardiac arrest comes in and the level 1 went from Dunwoody, blah, blah, to 45 minutes to the south part of the county. Right. So what they're saying is that there's an emergency call in Dunwoody. If you're in Dunwoody and they need to go south, it's a longer response. Because it's how the county works, right? Whatever truck's available in and around gets dispatched. Currently, the 4 units that are in Dunwoody currently hardly run calls. So that is going to be an ongoing issue. And I appreciate the insight there. In a fair system, right? In a fair and equal and a perfect world that's not cut in pieces by traffic and crappy response times, and we got Venn diagrams of zones being covered, right? So it's not just big patches and you got to stretch out. It's plenty of trucks. In that perfect world, the higher call volume gets more trucks. The lower call volume gets less trucks. That's how it works. Currently, the temporary solution is to put those 4 trucks in Dunwoody to service the north end of the county in those zones. But they need more trucks even further up, apparently. And those trucks, according to my source, aren't really running calls. What typically happens in a county system like DeKalb is if you start, all of a sudden, you start running calls in this one area of the county, their trucks are tied up, leaving a gap, right? Leaving a void. So the other trucks move in to help cover better areas. I don't know the official numbers, but I do know roughly that AMR went from 30 trucks on the road on any given day to well over 40, maybe close to 50 trucks. So they're putting up more coverage. But in this solution, it sounds like you're not going to pull those trucks for internal mutual aid, if you will, to cover the county. Those trucks are there for Dunwoody and that area. So we'll see what they come up with. But they are having ongoing conversations with DeKalb. Back to Chief Fuller's report. They are having ongoing conversations with AMR and the hospitals, which is a key point to make here because we're going to get through some more questions. But Chief Fuller said we've got to look at wall times. We have to look at what's going on other places in the community beyond ambulance and fire service. And the director of the meeting went, Chief Fuller, by hearing you ask that CQI, which is the Regional Quality Control Board, come and do some studies on wall. And everybody kind of laughed. He goes, yes. He looks over at the person that was representing that council and I said, yeah, we need you to do some studies. But they've reached out to 14 hospitals. So when they asked for, they took some comments before they asked for questions. And they took a comment from the mayor of Dunwoody who says he's happy how this process has worked. He's happy with the solutions that they've all come up with together and that he believes everybody's working to move forward. The CEO of DeKalb County, Mr. Thurman, said that he's proud of the MOU agreement. He's proud of how, in this day and age where it can be so divisive, that different people have come together to come up with these solutions. And then Terrence also said that it was not an easy process, but it came together, and he's happy that AMR is able to help guide this process, help be a part of the solution, and fix the system. So then they asked for questions. And Justin Barron, who is the EMS coordinator, trauma and emergency services of Wellstar, said, how do these hospitals get involved? What hospitals are part of this conversation? And he mentioned AMC, Grady, and then kind of faded because Chief Fuller was indicating an answer, so he kind of faded there. And Chief Fuller said they've sent out emails to 14 hospitals that service DeKalb County and their citizens, and that they sent it to the emergency department directors there, and that because Justin's the EMS coordinator for Wellstar, and if he would like to be a part of it, just see this person over here and get on the list, which presumably he did. So that is something that is going to be looked at officially. Then they motioned to accept the report, which is everything I just told you about. Hey, here's what we talked about. Here's what we found in general. Everybody's working together, and we think we should just let them work together. They accept the report, the memo of understanding, right, MOU, and they're going to monitor the situation. Now, that passed, and there was one person who officially abstained from the vote, and that's the CEO of Metro EMS. He abstained from the vote. Here's my question. In the report that Chief Elliott gave about the meetings, the ad hoc council, he said, we believe there needs to be another meeting, maybe a few more meetings to keep looking at this, whether it's this council, the ad hoc council, or another council. That was not addressed. It was not addressed. I don't know if it needed to be officially addressed, but as a citizen in the region, as a participator in the region that this EMS council governs, I was less confused going, are we not going to do anything about that? Are we not going to assign the council to meet again and come back in a couple of months, in 2 months? Why are we and then they officially left it with monitor the situation. Who's going to monitor the situation? What are the guidelines that we need to what are the milestones that we're marking against that we're monitoring? Is it the 17 points? Who is going to monitor this? What are we voting on? That they said, hey, everybody's working together, and hey, we've come together with 17 points. I mean, yeah, that's essentially, again, legally speaking, I don't know what's going to happen. But on the surface, it was, hey, we're just going to say, cool, y'all keep working on it, which is fine, because I believe the citizens, the people, the boots on the ground should be the solution, should be the keys to making the solution. So afterwards, I did go, like I said, I went up EJ Daily, asked how I could get that 17 points. I'm filing an official request for that document. It's already in processing. And then I went to Terry Knoll. And I said, hi, Charles McFall, EMS Underground. Can I ask you a few questions? And he said, yes. I said, you were the face of kicking this off. You jumped into CBS. I see they're not here today. He had no comment on that. But you got CBS to fire this thing up. How do you feel about the results of what the council voted on? And his official statement was, when the RFB, the request for bid, goes out, that they hope, they're going to keep pushing, they hope that they believe that Northern Corridor should be its own district. Its own, either inside the county district where it has its own EMS stuff that's serviced there. Essentially, note, I'm going to stick to the quote, and then I'll give my interpretation. But that it should service that area, right? It should, Dunwoody, Brookhaven, whatever else is there. And I said, well, how would that look? I said, they're moving together. DeKalb County is still going to run it. Is your ideal that the city of Dunwoody runs its own EMS service? And he repeated the same thing. Well, no, we want just its own district, whether it's the state that does it, the county that does it. It needs to be its own EMS area, is what he repeated. So I said, okay, what does that mean? And he said that it still would be a private ambulance service, but that this is what I referenced earlier, unless you're transporting to a hospital, you're not crossing 285. You're not going across 285 at all. That's what he wants. That's his personal view of what that would look like. That's the end of the quote for his statement. Here's why I find the abstaining of Metro EMS interesting. Is that if I just see it. I told you from the get-go when I covered this story. I told you it's a political move. I told you that it doesn't have the heart of the Dunwoody citizens or the DeKalb County citizens in mind. It has power in mind. And that's the same thing I walk away from actually talking to Terry about it as I came up with just from watching the interviews. Is I believe with this 4-truck system that's a temporary patch, right? They're going to say, you solved our problems. Our response times are down to 5 minutes. Under the 8-minute promise standard, which 8.5 minutes is ridiculous. Grady can't even make 9 minutes. They were kind of proud that they had some 10-minute responses. But it wasn't enough to skew the results. It was still over 11 minutes there. And Grady was proud of that. Okay, I'm not in the system. Okay, sure. But when you have a council member who is pushing for their own zone, and on the vote to say, hey, we're going to let these people who've come together keep working forward for the betterment of DeKalb County. And the one abstaining vote happens to be a private ambulance service. I'm just pointing out that's how you play the long game. That's how you don't show any kind of impropriety when you bid that zone. Just saying. Grady voted on this, accepting the memorandum and accepting a report and monitoring the situation. So it could look in the future when you start to go bidding, oh, well, Grady, you voted on this. That's a conflict of interest. You disqualified. It might not go that way, but it could. So are we actually servicing DeKalb County as its citizens with these steps? The answer is I don't know. I talked to Justin Barrett afterwards, and because he's the one that stood up. I said, how do you feel about this and the issues that were brought up? I mean, just even mentioned about wall time. And his official statement was, as a representative of Wellstar, I cannot comment on that, which is fair. That is fair. And he did give me a statement. I said, okay, let me ask you this. What is your goal? When you ask how do hospitals participate in those meetings, what is your goal? Their goal is to be a part of the process. Wellstar's official statement is to be a part of the process to make everything work better for the citizens. So that was into his statement. And then I talked with Terrence, at length, and what I said before is the cab or his AMR will service the cab for as long as the cab has them. Of course, they're trying to negotiate a better contract, but they're also helping build a permanent solution in DeKalb County that whether or not AMR is there to execute it, they're part of that solution, right? They've built it to where anybody can come in. So it's not a, well, it depends on us solution. It's a, we truly are trying to service the area that we're in solution. Those are four AMR trucks rather up in Dunwoody. It looks like we can theorize that the rapid response trucks for DeKalb will be all over the county. That there's 2 DeKalb-based trucks in the south end, and that was something because I asked Terrence pointedly. Does that step on AMR? Is that a problem that AMR cannot handle 2 more trucks? And he said no. That's exactly what they needed because they said there are areas of the county that are harder to service than others for call volume, for traffic, for location, for what happens. 285, man, those accidents. I passed one coming home. I passed 2 accidents coming home. Luckily for me, both are on the other side of the divider. One's on 285, and traffic was backed up for a good 10 minutes drive in the opposite direction. Ambulances were still on fire, were still on scene. There's one on I-20, same thing. Both of those are in DeKalb County. So there are major hotspot issues, right? So he said that this 10 rapid response unit trucks that AMR is helping outfit is part of the solution. The 2 ambulances that DeKalb County is running in the south end of the county is part of the solution. The fire trucks responding to alpha calls, the low-end calls, part of the solution. So it sounds like, as a whole, DeKalb County and most of the cities involved and most of the agencies involved are coming together to find compromise, to find a solution that works for everybody. I would dare say that the mayor of Dunwoody seems to be part of that process. I would dare say that City Councilman Terry Nall, his vision is to separate, to segregate, to be apart from, and to have their own service. So there is that. Now, on the point of South Fulton and the walls, the waiting on the walls. I talked to a lot of different people off the record. Van Dora says here in the chat, Station 21 has 1 unit, 78. Station 18 has 2 units, 80 and 76. The Station 12 has a unit now as of 2 days ago. Yeah, so he said there was a 4-person, a 4-truck. With one of those trucks, I guess at 18, one of those trucks is just a day truck and not a 24-hour truck, if I understand that right. And I know they're addressing it, that's why I didn't ask it directly to Chief Fuller or anybody else. But my question has always been, why did you kick ambulances out of the fire stations in the first place? That made no sense. So they're trying to bring that back, obviously. I did talk to a lot of different people off the record. So there's just sources. There's still a major issue with waiting on the walls at hospitals. According to my sources, there is trouble brewing in South Fulton County. I don't have verification, and so I'm going to choose my words very wisely as best I can. But there's evidence to make us seem like Grady is picking and choosing which patients go to which hospitals. The paying patients are going to Grady. Other patients are going to other hospitals, which screws up the whole system. Again, that's theory. That is flat observation. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody from Grady to get their side of it, to look at facts, to dive into that situation. But it definitely looks like not only are they not getting below 11 minutes on the response time, and I guess according to AmeriPro, I guess they have actually taken all their trucks into the county and they're not using other trucks currently, the other services. and they have initiatives, they have whatever. Grady has a reputation in the field of doing things their own way. Not illegal stuff. I would never, ever, without facts and proof, I would never accuse anybody of doing anything illegal. Just things that are not fair to everybody else. They don't play well with others. Is the reputation that Grady has. So keep an eye on the South Fulton situation and what's going on with the hospitals there, because it could be big. It could be nothing. Georgia is known for that. Georgia is known for, I doubt it, but it kind of feels like growing up in Georgia, it feels like the term good old boy got coined because of this state. Because there's been, throughout the decades, tons of good old boy politics across the board in every which direction. Many services have been known to go and promise a whole lot and deliver almost nothing of what they promise. Officially, I can tell you, Grady got disqualified from bidding Richmond County. Unofficially, I heard it's because they got caught with their hand where it shouldn't be. No allegations of illegalities here. Don't know what the details are that they got caught doing. But I know they got disqualified from bidding. And those are issues. So, with all of that being said, that's the Region 3 meeting in a nutshell. I got to see how the audio turned out, because there was a hum in the room and that there was just lots of extra noise. It's hard to hear. If I can, I'll put the whole unedited audio up on our website where you can listen to the meeting yourself. I will put out the statements, the direct quote statements that I got from the three people I talked to after the meeting. And if I get the 17-point memorandum, I will come back and talk about that. If you have something you would like to share, insight to what's going on, personal experience information, you can do it publicly by posting to our page. You can message our Facebook page, Georgia Institute of EMS. Off the record, you can email me, charles@gaiems.com. You can call the school number, 678-561-2368. Option 7 will get you the radio line. Option 8 will get you my line. Leave a voicemail if I don't answer. And say, this is off the record. This is journalism to a point. I will protect you. I will refuse to name you. But I also need trusted guidance. I need to know what you're saying is real. But know this about these reports. I'm going to tell you exactly what was said. I'm going to tell you what I saw. I'm going to tell you what I know. Then I'm going to tell you what I think. And I do think that we have to keep talking about this stuff. We have to bring out the good and the bad. We have to clean up the system and keep having conversations about how to clean up the system to better service everybody. And I'm going to keep talking about that. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be the regular show at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Here we're going to have Darren Dale on to talk about working events all summer long as an EMT and having gone to the EMS conference here this past weekend. He's going to talk about what he learned, what he saw, and we're going to have a good time. So tune in tomorrow, and anytime I have a special report, I'll jump on. Thanks for watching.